Welcome back to the Neighbors Podcast. I'm your host, Allie Parsons, and this week is a treat because my own husband is our guest this week. And if you know Wes at all, or even if you don't, this took moving mountains to get him to come on this side of the microphone. He absolutely does not like public speaking or being in front of the camera. He is always the one behind the camera, but it felt important to who we are as neighbors for you to meet him because he is why the Neighbors Podcast is a thing. And we get to talk about a really exciting project that we have coming out called Daughter. And this is a Bible study that I wrote and Wes designed that walks you through Genesis 3 in the garden when shame enters the world. And then we look at John 4 with the woman at the well and Luke 8, the woman with the issue of bleeding. And the subtitle is On Your Way to Living a Gospel Confident Life. And we just talk about my journey with confidence and when it went from my own confidence to really a gospel confidence. And that's all because of freedom. And then at the end, we do some activities on shedding some labels that you might be believing and how you can be on your way to living a gospel confident life. So I hope you grab a copy. You can go to our website, theneighborspodcast.com, and snag a copy. You can do it in a group as a Bible study. It would work really well that way. It's a 21-day study, so you could do it as 3 weeks. It's broken up into 3 sections. So lots of ways that you can do it. I hope that it's a helpful resource, not because of my words, but honestly just because of God's word. Like we literally are just going to study God's word together and how that teaches us about who he is. And then it also teaches us about how we're supposed to live and move in the world. So I hope it's helpful to you. And I'd love to hear about it if you do go through the study. But this conversation's fun with Wes. And we talk about just our funny quirks about each other and what's fun in our marriage. And I am truly convinced that I married the best person for me. And it is so fun being able to show him off to the Neighbors community because he really is the biggest part of my life and who I am other than Jesus. And so it just means so much that he would come on and share with you all today. So before we dive in, this episode is brought to you by Grounds of Grace. The next time you're looking for a great cup of coffee with a great local cause attached to it, make sure to check out Grounds of Grace Coffee Company here in Jacksonville. Grounds of Grace Coffee Company is the for-profit to their nonprofit sponsored by Grace, which has been serving in the Jacksonville murder capital 32209 for the past 6 years, fighting for the gospel to be delivered into some of the hardest communities in our city. Grounds of Grace is widely known for their popular lattes, shaken espressos, fun seasonal drinks, and their iced plant-based refreshers. Check them out on Instagram at Grounds of Grace Jax, that's Jax, or at one of their 5 locations in Jacksonville. This episode is also sponsored by Lay Construction. Lay Construction is a full-service general contractor specializing in commercial interiors. Whether your project is office, retail, hospitality, faith-based, or industrial, Lay Construction services all market types. The company is Jacksonville-based and dedicated to serving Northeast Florida by delivering the highest quality work in the industry. For any of your construction needs, Lay Construction is your team. Check out some of their completed projects on Instagram at Lay, that's Lay _construction, or online at lay-construction.com. And now here is my episode with Wes Parsons. Welcome to the Neighbors Podcast.
Hi.
This is really fun because you're kind of a different kind of guest than I normally have on because we're married.
I already almost made an inappropriate joke.
Oh my gosh. What? You're the only one I sleep with?
Yeah.
Sorry, Mom and mother-in-law and Dad. Okay. So today we have you on, Wes, which is so fun. Although this is actually your nightmare and I didn't think we'd ever get to this day.
Same.
And you already made one inappropriate joke. And so who knows what's going to happen. But you hate being on this side of the camera. Have you been freaking out today?
Not until 2 minutes ago. Definitely confronting my biggest fear, which is public speaking, which we're alone in my studio. So it hardly counts as public speaking. But I thought I had full veto rights on this episode until this morning when you said if we don't use the episode, we don't have one for the next week or the one after, which adds pressure.
Well, I mean, if you say something really stupid, we won't use it. But the hope is we're going to use it. But yeah, I want you to feel relaxed, no strings attached. I try to make the easiest questions possible.
Perfect.
But the reason you're on today, well, number one, I've been telling Wes for seriously months how the people want to see you. And
If we don't use it, we'll just air this much of it and cut it right here, and then you can just assume it went downhill
Okay.
from here.
The people want to see you. They want to know you. Of course, they're like, who could Allie possibly be married to? And you're going to find out that Wes is truly the perfect complement to everything that I am. And so that's the first thing. The second thing is we just recently finished a project together that we're going to launch, which is really exciting. And there was just no one else I wanted to talk about it with who just knows how close the project is to my heart. And you are half of making it happen. And so it was really important for me that the two of us talk about it together. And so that's kind of why you're here.
That's sweet. I'm excited. Let's do it.
Okay, so let's start easy. What is you're already laughing.
Should I not? Does that show that I'm nervous?
Yeah, you're doing a lot of nervous laughter.
All right, I'm serious.
Okay. What is your, like, a very specific skill that you have that's, like, maybe, like, likely useless, maybe a little bit useful? Which I honestly feel like you have a lot of these.
I know. I'm curious after I answer if you had one in mind.
You have multiple.
Oh, well, I didn't quickly come up with multiple. The first thing that came into mind, it's definitely not useful. It's really stupid. But, you know, like a ripstick, you know what it is, but explaining to everyone else. A ripstick, you like your feet kind of go like a surfboard. It's connected by like a rod in the middle.
It's actually a lot harder than it looks.
Yeah, it's not the most complicated thing in the world, but
Okay, well.
it's not that.
So it's not hard.
But they're called freeline skates, and they're basically that. It's the same motion, but they're not connected in the middle. But your feet are independent, and they were incredibly challenging to learn. I thought I was a lot cooler than I was in college riding them around campus. In hindsight,
you did not.
In hindsight,
you rode them literally around campus.
You would not have married me if we were friends in college. God spared me with that. But yeah, I rode these things. It took me like a few weeks to learn how to ride them, and yeah, they're completely useless and a random skill.
Wow. Okay. I was going more like an intellectual skill in my head. So I have two that come to mind. One is, and this literally just happened last night when we were watching a show that won't be named. Just kidding. It's Love is Blind. You have a crazy skill of when you see someone in either like a friend of ours or a reality show or like a character somewhere, you immediately know their doppelganger. So it goes both ways. It's either like an actor and actress, and you're immediately like, oh, they remind me or look like our friend, or oh, that person looks like this famous person.
Which happened the other night, and I've yet to solve the mystery.
And that one's really bothering you.
It was a basketball coach.
Yeah, it was a basketball coach in like some movie or something that just came out.
Well, no,
it was the basketball in March Madness.
Yeah, in March Madness. I don't remember the team though. People might want to know that.
Yeah.
People might not care at all.
No, it was the Florida game. Oh, it was Alabama. I think it's the Alabama coach.
I'm not confident about that. Regardless,
he's really tall and thin.
He looks like an actor, and I just can't think of it. And I feel like I was getting closer. It's
not Alabama. It might be.
No, I don't think it is.
No, I don't think it is. I think it was someone more random.
Anyway,
but okay, so that one's really like plaguing you that you can't figure it out. But otherwise, like there was this girl there is a character on Love is Blind or a person, whatever. And you said like how she looked and her mannerisms were just like a friend of ours. And it could not be more accurate. And I love it because I always like think someone looks familiar and then you put the name to it. And I'm like, yes, like I knew you would come up with it.
All right, well, I'm going to work on this one. You've inspired me to think about it some more.
Okay, so that's a useless skill. The other one, this is like slightly more useful, but it's still just like a funny, really like impressive skill that you have is coming up with analogies for things. So like, and this literally happened last night as well. Except I can't quite remember. Like you'll always say, we'll be talking about something and it's usually serious and you'll give an analogy for it. Like you'll say like, this is just like if you're driving a car and you like don't take care of the car. You know, you remember you did one last night.
I don't remember last night's. I have always felt like you thought they were annoying. Maybe you still do. You just are noting that I do it. But do you like them? Are they helpful?
Do you like them? Do you like me? No, I think they're very helpful. And I feel like
you usually laugh and you're just like, yeah, I got it the first time.
well, sometimes I do feel like it's an unnecessary illustration of something I like do fully understand. But sometimes it really is helpful. I do think it will be really helpful as our kids get older. I think it's a really great way to explain things to them, because I remember you doing it when we fostered the girls a few years ago. I remember I would hear you like try and give them analogies, or like you would give them analogies, and I think it was really, really effective. So I do really like that about you.
All right. So I don't need to talk to you though, like you're a 3-year-old.
Well, no, but and I don't feel like that way. I really don't feel that way. I really do like them. It's just the most classic you trait of anytime we're talking about serious, and you even know it. Like you'll kind of like smile and be like, "Okay, just go with me here. It's like this," and then you give an example, which I like.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm going to spin as many of these back on you as I possibly can. What is your useless trait?
Well, I didn't think of this.
Oh.
Useless trait. Do you have any that you can think about for me?
Well, no, I didn't think about it either.
I have all useful traits, thank you.
We can circle back if we need to, or
I
not.
know, but there's got to be one
I'm
that's
sure
like
there's
really
plenty.
obvious. That's useless. Ugh.
I know, I'm thinking of useful ones. Like you have an incredible memory and things like that, but that would
those
not
are
be
all
considered
useful.
useless, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know that this is useless. It's more like uncomfortable, but I do. So it kind of goes in line with having a good memory. I will remember people's names. I mean, seriously, I can remember pretty much most people I've met. Now it's got a little bit more complicated, just like being at a big church with a lot of people. So I can't say I remember everybody's names. There was a time in my life where I could confidently tell you that I knew everybody's name, like who I had met. And I'm really not exaggerating. Now, where this gets a little tricky is they usually don't remember me. And so there have been so many instances where I know exactly who someone is and where they're from. And I go back and forth internally of like, will they remember me? Because I could have talked to them seriously one time in high school. This actually just happened to me in a coffee shop the other day, and I texted my friend, a friend I actually do know, and I was like, I just saw so-and-so at this coffee shop. I've probably had 2 conversations with him in my entire life. He was a friend of a friend in high school, went to a different school, haven't seen him in seriously 15 years. And immediately I was just about to like walk up to him and start talking to him like old friends. And then I realized like he actually might not know who I am. And so that's something that can get me in kind of sticky situations.
That's so funny because, as you know, I struggle with the exact opposite.
You do.
People will come up to me and say hi, and I introduce myself, and they look at me strange because we met a month ago or were friends for a year in high school or something like that.
Yeah, you're not great with names, but we love you anyway. Okay. If you could be professional at any extreme sport, what would it be? You love sports.
I love sports. I love extreme sports. I feel like there's an obvious answer. What do you think it is?
An obvious answer, snowboarding.
Oh, interesting.
Oh.
We're learning about each other now. I would have thought. I mean, that's relevant because I just went on a ski trip, snowboarding trip.
And
So maybe that's why I was. Yeah, I did. So maybe that's top of mind. I would have thought the obvious answer would have been surfing. And I still think that might be my answer.
Okay.
Because I do love surfing. But thinking about it, snowboarding would be a close second.
Well, snowboarding is the surfing of the mountains.
It's that. And my favorite thing of all extreme sports is being in the air. And you watch snowboard videos. I've never seen it in person. But they will hit these jumps or go backcountry and fly what appears to be 100 feet. And that
does seriously nothing for me.
That does everything for me.
Did you do any jumps on your snowboarding trip?
I did one on the last run on the last day by accident.
Okay. I think I specifically said like, please don't do any jumps.
Yeah. And you didn't have to, because I've been on a handful of snowboarding trips, mostly on the East Coast, mostly where it's icy. And I have my 2 worst injuries from trying to do jump snowboarding, which is comical because it's the quote-unquote extreme sport I've done the least, which might be why I get hurt doing it.
Isn't that the least? You never
of the ones
cycle
that
or a
sure,
BMX.
of the ones that I've done,
Oh, okay,
which is
fair.
a decent amount.
Yeah.
I've spent the least amount of time snowboarding, and I've gotten hurt the most on 2 times that I tried to do a jump because I was overly confident.
Which, a fun fact is, you still have a hole in your elbow from. Can you show the camera?
I don't know. Is it this arm or is it the other one?
I know you always forget. We'll do this one. No, it's that one.
Yeah. I don't think I'll be able to see it. But Sunny walked up to me the other day, and she put her finger in it. She said, "Why you got a hole in your elbow?"
Oh, yeah, you did tell me that. Yeah, and like you will bang that elbow. What we think like a piece of the bone is floating around, which I don't even know if that's medically possible.
I feel like you can feel it. I don't hit it hard, but if I'm like resting like this and I put pressure on it a certain way, it sends me into orbit.
Yeah, if you
that's
hit
the only time it bothers me.
Like when you get in the car, if you hit the center console with it, it's like bad.
So bad.
So love to have a lifelong injury from the extreme sport of choice. Do you want to know my extreme sport of choice?
I do.
Well, can you list a few out for me?
Skateboarding, rollerblading, BMX, snowboarding. Did I say that? Wakeboarding, surfing.
Does tubing count?
No. Unless you've seen a tubing competition somewhere.
Probably.
Probably, but that's embarrassing. Almost as embarrassing as freeline skating.
I seriously love tubing.
Yeah, but...
And now I feel like I can't do it because I feel like I'll get injured.
Neither of us, no one in their 30s should be tubing unless it's casual with a kid.
But it's seriously so fun and
all right, so a real sport that you've seen
Does beach
at like
volleyball
X
count?
Games. No.
Oh. I've seen it at X Games, like I'm tuning into X Games regularly.
Of the ones I listed.
Okay. Well, honestly, none of them sound very fun. So I'm just going to say surfing because it seems like the most fun of them.
All right.
Does skiing count if snowboarding counts?
Yeah.
Skiing is considered an extreme sport?
I mean, there might be...
I do like skiing.
Yeah, they do the jumps. They go fast downhill. I mean, I don't know if there's like a universally accepted list of extreme sports, but I feel like something that you're going to get hurt doing.
Like dirt biking or something?
Yeah.
Dirt biking seems kind of fun.
Yeah, like I don't think playing pool is an extreme.
I mean, I just have to be honest. Like, no extreme sport is speaking to me. So I think I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna stay out of it.
You like going on a ski trip? Like you like skiing?
I do, but I'm not trying. Like, if I were to be a professional, my whole life would have to be this sport.
Yeah, sure.
I'm thinking too hard
You're
about
like
it. I'm
really
making it too
getting into
realistic.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to travel. I wouldn't see our kids. There's like a lot of.
Next up, how do you like your eggs cooked?
I think you and Caitlin talked about this on an episode.
Yeah, so now we need to hear the truth from you. Your truth.
My truth about eggs, I like them cooked. I don't.
Oh, please.
I don't want.
You like them well done.
I don't want water. I don't want residue on the plate.
Nobody wants water.
I don't want to see the existence of eggs on the plate after I finish eating them.
You want them to be rubber chunks.
No, you can't overcook them.
No, that is how you cook them.
I would err closer to that, yes, than anything
At
watery.
least you own it. As Caitlin and I have discussed previously on the podcast, we both feel like our husbands overcook their eggs. And Wes has never had the chance to defend himself, so I just wanted to give you that opportunity.
I don't feel like I'm the only one in this.
Oh.
I don't know if there's a big comment section, but if anyone else wants to weigh in on how they like their specifically scrambled eggs.
Scrambled eggs. You don't love a fried egg.
No.
That has to also be cooked really well.
Yeah. I'll eat it. Eat it on a breakfast sandwich. It's not my egg of choice.
Yeah, for sure. I like my egg scrambled to perfection, which is not overcooked, which is firm but soft. No, wait. Yeah. Solid but soft.
I mean, I can't imagine not solid.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't want water either. So
okay.
we do agree on that.
Okay. We just have different
The
definitions
best is there really have been some mornings and you will not say a word. You will sit there, you will look at the eggs, you will stand up, you will walk to the stove, and you will put them back in the pan and cook them additional time.
That happened. It's happened a couple times. I can only remember once, and I would have made a joke out of it, but it was a particularly tough morning for you. And I felt like if I complained about how the eggs were cooked for me, that would not have gone over very well. So
and honestly, that's what makes you a really great husband.
Well, that's sweet. I quietly went back and cooked them
As
more.
if I'm not going to see you.
I wasn't trying to hide it.
I actually think that did kind of break the ice. I think I did laugh, and it put me in a good mood.
Okay.
Maybe. That's how I remember it. Okay. All right. How do you refuel or recharge?
Going off the last question, anything active. I would say playing golf.
Technically, the last question was about eggs. So at first I was like, going off the last question with eggs.
Yep, a good quality breakfast.
He's a simple man.
No, see my poor memory. The question before about extreme sports, anything active. I just have to be doing something, using my body, playing golf, going surfing, playing pickleball with a friend, but something that is on the go.
Yeah. You know, we're going to talk a little bit about it, I think, a little bit later, but you and I are wired really, really differently. I am an extroverted extrovert. You are an extroverted introvert. So you would fall on the introverted.
Introverted extrovert.
No. At the core of who you are, you're an introvert.
Yeah,
but
so
you can
I would lead with that.
No, because you're describing the introvert.
Yeah.
You're an extroverted introvert.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So it means like you can hold your own, like you are, even though you hate this, like you can talk into the microphone. Like we can talk right now. You can go to a party and talk to friends. You can do all those things, but the way you recharge and refuel is usually an activity, oftentimes by yourself. But you are on the more introverted side where I recharge in community. So like a girls' night out dinner with friends. My actual nightmare would be to be on the golf course for 4 hours by myself. I just seriously can't think of anything more torturous. And I don't think you would love going to like a loud, noisy restaurant with 4 guys for hours, just like chatting.
You don't have to say, I don't think. You know that confidently about me. And it's not that I even need to be alone on the golf course. I would say this is where I swing closer to an extrovert on the introverted scale. I don't have any need to be alone. So I just so happen to choose some recreational activities that can be done by yourself, like surfing or golf. But I don't need to be alone. I don't need to lock myself in a dark room to recharge. I actually have no interest in doing that at all. Would you say for you, I know that going out with girlfriends is refueling. Would you also say that time on the couch watching a show or reading a book is refueling, or just an activity that you like doing?
Okay.
Is there a distinction? There's a distinction between those.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I would say chilling on the couch, reading a book, or watching a show. Now, is that recharging or is it just comfortable? That's like the question I would ask. I don't know that it's fully recharging. Like, I don't know that I get up from that. Like, I'm specifically thinking we did this. I did this for the first time this past weekend in seriously weeks because we've had just a really full couple of weeks. And we had a couple hours. The girls were napping, and I was reading my book outside, and then we moved inside. And but I don't know that that ended, and I felt particularly recharged. I felt like relaxed, but I don't think I would say that that's refueling for me.
If I can weigh in on you, I would
Please.
agree.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I feel like the nights that you come back with friends or even coffee 101 or something like that, like
No.
coffee
Let's
with
be
a
clear.
friend,
Okay.
with
No.
a Caitlin, with someone like that.
Sure. Yes.
I do know about you that one-on-one discipleship or someone that isn't a Caitlin in your life is draining.
Yeah, which one thing that I love the distinction of that Pastor Joby really taught me is that just because things are draining doesn't mean you don't enjoy doing them. And so I love meeting people. Like that is the heartbeat of ministry, and like why I'm in ministry is for people and to help them, come alongside them to grow in their relationship with the Lord. But if I stack up a bunch of one-on-one, either discipleship coffees or ministry meals or whatever it is in a week, that will be a more draining activity for me, even though I love doing it. But yes, people really do refuel me. It's not even just like something I say. Like you said, I will come home from a dinner with some girls and I will seriously be like lit up.
Yeah, you'll be fired up. And so, I mean, I knew this already, but obviously it's not a bad thing to be drained by something because I will go to a party and have fun with friends. I want to do that. But when I come home, I'm not fired up.
Yeah, recently at a party, there was a lot of small talk, and I was seriously, work in the room, loving every minute of it. We're there for like seriously 30 minutes. And Wes and I weren't together, and we like meet up at the dessert table. And I'm like, on cloud 9. I don't even think we're close to going home at this point. And Wes just goes, Yeah, I've about reached my limit. So whenever you're ready, I'm ready.
Oh, it just makes me sound like the worst.
No. I mean, I think a lot of people will relate to that because especially in a marriage, I mean, not to like turn it really serious, but this is where like a lot of friction can have the potential to come into a marriage when you don't understand each other on that level. And I remember early on in our marriage, I didn't really know how introverts work. So I'm like, do you need like alone time? Like, do I have to like not talk to you once a week for a whole morning? And that's when you were like, well, no, I don't actually need to be locked in a room in a dark place. You know, like we were kind of learning these things about each other. But I think it was really helpful because now when I know what fills and drains you, and then you know what fills and drains me, we can help each other make sure we're evening those lists out. And I mean, you even said recently when I was expressing like I just feel spread really thin and like I'm operating from a really like shallow place. And you were like, okay, in the next 2 days, what can we figure out how to do so you can refill your tank and, and start operating. And the same thing, like I'll notice like, hey, you haven't gone and played golf in a couple weeks and you obviously need like an activity. Like you need to be filling your tank. And so what are those things? And so then we try to figure it out. But I feel like we do a pretty good job of making sure the other person has their tank filled in the way that they need, even though it looks really, really different.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So
Look
good
at
job.
us. We're the best.
And we have to say the caveat that, one, we don't always get it right. And two, obviously Jesus is the tank filler. We're talking more like the activities in your life that fill and drain you, not like our
What
eternal
sustains you.
fulfilling, sustaining thing. Okay, should we talk about how we met?
Yeah, let's do it.
I don't know if anyone even cares about this, but I feel like Wes and I have kind of a fun story. We met in high school. I was in 9th grade. He was in 11th grade. We were in the same youth group and went to the same school. We were going to be on work crew for a Young Life camp together. And actually, spicy part of the story is Wes, you were interested in my friend.
This is true.
But she was allowed to have a boyfriend. She was the pastor's daughter. So then the three of us pretty much hung out for a full year together because she wasn't allowed to hang out one-on-one with you. But so then I always came. And she kind of put us, what? Were you going to say something?
And I could drive.
And you had a car. Oh, you guys, you had the best car. It was this gold, old school Jeep. Like, what do you even call that?
It was a Jeep Cherokee Classic.
Oh, it was
so great.
So great.
And recently we saw not that model, but that exact car driving around.
On Christmas Eve, yes, Wes sold this gold Jeep before we got together dating in our 20s, which is so devastating because even from when we were friends in high school, I had broken with my knee. I had hit the glove box and broken it, and he had it taped for like 10 years while we weren't friends. And so anyway, that car just held like a lot of memories for us. And then Wes sold it.
Yeah, I wish I could get it back.
And I feel like that might be your biggest regret in life.
Yes, and I mean, it would be something I guess I would change. In the time, I had no money to continue to fix an old crappy car, and I had no know-how or interest in learning how to do it. So in the moment, I made the right decision to sell it. Hindsight,
it would have been fun.
It would have been fun to still have.
Anyway, so yeah, he could drive this really awesome Jeep, and we didn't know anybody else that could really drive. So he drove us around town, and we became friends. Then we pretty much didn't talk for 8 years. So my sophomore year, his senior year, they opened up a new high school. I went to the new high school. He stayed at the old high school. And then our youth group kind of fell apart that year. And that's when I started going to 1122. And actually you did too, but we didn't know at the time.
Yeah, during the school year, I was actually still at our old church. It wasn't until that summer.
Yeah. And then we truly did not lay eyes on each other for 8 years. But through those 8 years, I did always wonder, gosh, I wonder what happened to Wes Parsons, because you were always really kind and you were really different than any other guy in high school that I knew at the time, and just super solid stand-up guy, loved the Lord, didn't fall prey to the peer pressures and all the things. And you obviously thought I was amazing. So you thought about me too.
I did. I'll interject with a story that when I was roughly 22, I heard a stat that I don't think is true, but at the time it was enough to get me thinking about it, that if you're over the age of 22, you have a 75% chance of marrying someone you already know.
Scary.
Scary. Again, I don't think that's backed by anything, but it freaked me out because I was like, I have no prospects on the horizon. I'm close to graduating or had already graduated college, where I was at UCF, the biggest school in America, and didn't find anyone to marry. And you're telling me I have a 75% chance of marrying someone I already know. Who do I even know that I would be interested in marrying? And sure, I thought about you from time to time, but not much over the course of those years. And you were the only name that came to mind. I was like, Allie Failing. She was the best, and I wonder where she is, what she's doing, because I didn't even know where you went to school.
Right, yeah. We didn't keep in touch at all. And then when I was 22, I guess you would have been 24, we ran into each other at 11:22, and we were just like, oh my gosh, haven't seen you in so long. And we had kind of planned to, like, maybe we should get coffee. Actually, Wes texted me and invited me to coffee, and I said, sorry, don't have your number. Who's this? Because I didn't even have your number at that time. I didn't follow you on social media, like, truly nothing. You were a ghost of a memory in my past.
Sad. I at least still had your number.
No, I truly thought I would never see you again. I mean, that's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, I know.
Now I have your last name and your 2 children. But I was moving to New York, and it was just weird timing. So we didn't end up getting breakfast or coffee, whatever. And then I would say about 6 months passed, and we hadn't talked. I was living in New York, which I've talked about on here, was a really, really hard season of my life. I was very lonely and experienced depression. And yeah, it was just a really hard season of my life. And I was riding a Greyhound bus from Atlantic City to Manhattan, which there's actually nothing worse than 1, a Greyhound bus, and 2, leaving from Atlantic City. Truly the armpit of America. Sorry if anybody likes Atlantic City, but they don't. Literally no one does. And I was just feeling so sad and so sorry for myself. I'm crying the whole bus ride. I decided to write down all the traits I want. I was just feeling sad about being single. So I decided to write all the traits I'd want in a future husband. And I write 18 traits on a piece of paper. And I'm looking at the paper and I'm praying. And all of a sudden I'm just like, this list is Wes Parsons. Like, I'm just overwhelmed by it. I don't even know you that well at that point. But I'm just like, and it was such random stuff that it's just so random. So I text my sister, Maddie, who knew Wes in high school. And all I said was, I think I'm supposed to marry Wes Parsons. Should I text him? And she's like, no, literally don't text him. So then I did text you. And I'm just like, hey, Wes, I didn't come right out the gates and say, like, I think we're supposed to get married. But I just said, sorry, we never got a chance to catch up. Would that have freaked you out, do you think?
On some level, but I also, yes, I mean, that would have been a really aggressive approach.
Because I did consider it.
But I knew you were. That's like what all this comes back to. Like, having that 1 year in high school, like, I knew who you were. I knew your family. I knew so much about you. If you had been some random person I met one time, like, that would have been a really weird text. But
oh my gosh! Well, I really could have saved us a year of back and forth if I would have just come out the gates.
Yeah.
So then I text him just like, hey, we never got a chance to catch up. Like, how are you? First text, Wes responds back, hey, sorry, I have a girlfriend now. Or like, it was really nice, but it was like, yeah, hope you're doing well. But like, I actually have a girlfriend now. Basically just like completely shutting me down, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to have like,
you're a stand-up guy. Once again, I'm like, dang, he really is a good guy. So honoring to his girlfriend.
Yeah, I don't think it would have been a good look for the girl that I was currently dating to be texting the only person I could think of at the age of 22 that I'd be interested in marrying.
Of course. So then I was devastated. Like, it was as if we had broken up because I had gotten so far. This is how crazy girls can be. And I don't feel like I'm that crazy of a girl, okay? I was maybe when I was 22. And I was seriously devastated. Called my sister. I'm like, he has a girlfriend. And you were 25 at that time, I guess.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, a Christian guy in his 20s dating, like, he's definitely going to marry this person.
You would think.
And you didn't. So then 6 months later, show back up on the scene. We run into each other again in Jacksonville. We finally get lunch. And I'm like, okay, so does he still have the girlfriend? Or is he like, why is he getting lunch with me? And we always joke about this. Like, I showed up to that date. I had put on 150 outfits, sent it to 150 friends, full makeup. And I'm like living in New York. So I'm very like urban at this time. I think I still dress like a little bit urban, but I was like I was wearing black jeans and it was like the dead of summer.
Before you say what I was wearing, you, you keep saying date. But I didn't ask you on a date.
Well, I said it was like a date.
We
It was
were
unclear what it was.
I would love to catch up with my friend from high school.
Yeah, which that's so classic you.
That's very different than, hey, I would love to take you on a
but
date. Not
I'm
that
a girl with an interest. Like
I just want to not look like the worst human on the world.
Okay. Wes didn't consider it a date, which I was confused if it was a date. And I thought to myself, if he pays, it's a date. So then he shows up. He just walked off the beach. We met at this bar that that had food and was associated with who Wes was working with at the time, or working for. And so Wes was playing beach volleyball on the beach. He literally isn't wearing shoes. He walked off of the beach. He's completely covered in sand, wearing a bathing suit and a tank top. And I was just like, oh, I think we have different definitions of what this lunch is. So we sit at lunch. It was an amazing lunch. I remember I got a parfait, which seriously gagged me because I feel like I thought that was like the like girly thing to do. Like, blue, I was like getting a parfait. It's seriously so weird.
Which is so funny. I can't speak for all guys, and maybe I'm in the minority here, but I feel like I've learned that girls put a lot of thought into what they order at a meal on a date.
They do.
That would never cross my mind. You could have ordered a
I know.
steak or a...
You ordered a seafood loaf on our second date. Okay, that's another story. So I got a parfait, whatever. Wes pays because he gets a discount with his job.
That's
so
confusing.
again, I'm like, oh, he paid. So like, is this a date? Meanwhile, he's not. It's not even crossing your mind that this is a date.
No, but I'm definitely in my mind like, is this someone
Sure.
that I would like to start dating?
Okay, so then truly fast forward a year. And we kind of stayed in touch a little bit. Wes is a horrible texter. Of course, I thought that meant he didn't like me, but he just doesn't. He's never on his phone, even to this day. And so we'd exchange a couple texts here and there. And then ultimately, I think we hung out like one more time. And he really helped me come to terms with moving out of New York because I saw that as a failure. And I really, looking back, like I really just needed somebody that I trusted that wasn't so close to me as like a family member, like, so, and that was who you were. Like, I trusted you even though I didn't know you super well still. And I remember you kind of like giving me permission to end that season. And I just like needed that affirmation that I wasn't a failure because I was really battling that lie. And so I'm so grateful for that. And I mean, you've continued truly since that moment to be such a voice of reason and a voice of stability and wisdom in my life, but which we all know I really need.
That's so sweet. That's so much more profound than what I thought I was doing because how I remember it, which I don't have a great memory, you had been in New York for maybe a year and a half and you said, I need to stay there for 2 years. And I said, oh, are you like under some kind of contract or something with IBM?
You must be.
You must be. Why are you tied to 2 years? You're like, no, I just like have mentally had in my mind that in order, maybe you didn't use these words, but for this to be a success, like I need to see it out through 2 years. I'm like, well, that's dumb. If you don't like it and like you're over, like, and you know you're going to quit at 2 years, just do it. Just do it now.
Yeah.
Apparently it carried a lot of weight.
Well, it did. I mean, everything you say to me carries weight.
That's sweet. I should be more intentional.
You should. No, you're very intentional. Yeah. And then I ended up moving back to Jacksonville and we started dating like within a month of me moving back. And on our first date, which ironically was Valentine's Day, which neither of us are very Valentine's-y people / had never had a Valentine's date. And we showed up to this restaurant, Moxie. It's no longer a restaurant anymore, at the town center at like literally 5 p.m. because Wes didn't know you had to make reservations on Valentine's Day. So
I didn't know you had to make
citizens.
reservations like a month or two in advance. I think I tried 2 or 3 days before and felt pretty good about that.
And so we showed up and like obviously the hostess didn't know we were on our first date and she was like, oh, we have the most romantic table reserved for you. And I'm trying to like look at the lady like, no,
I was like, oh, that's sweet.
But it was sweet and we had a great date and literally at that date we talked, we were like, we're probably getting married. Yeah,
I texted my best friend on the way to the date or maybe the day before saying I'm going on a date with my future wife.
Yeah. And here we are 6.5 years later.
Look at us.
Almost a decade, round up. Okay, so that's a fun story about how we met. And what do you feel like with us being wired so differently and now being married for almost 7 years? Like, what is hard about being wired differently and what's really fun and easy about being wired differently?
I did put thought into these questions. I need to think about it more because honestly, being married to you is so easy. And I feel like our differences complement each other in a great, healthy way. And I mean, there's small, trivial things like preferences and stuff of, you know, tidiness or that kind of stuff that I feel like everyone struggles with on some level. But
Who's tidy in our relationship?
I don't think it's super surprising that that would be me.
Who's not tidy in our relationship?
The only other person in it. I'm not naming names. But even still, I feel like I knew these things about you when we got married. The things that I loved about you. I loved how extroverted you are. I love how social you are. I love that you push me outside of my comfort zone in that you are the sole reason behind a lot of our friends and that kind of stuff, which I love to have those friends. But if on my own, I have 2 close friends and that's like the world I live in. But I love like the environment and the community that we've built because of you. And so I feel like, you know, is tidiness your strength? No, but we each have strengths that we bring to the relationship. And I feel like ultimately that's what makes it work well.
That's really nice. I feel like one thing that would be hard that you would think would be hard, which I don't even know if you would put language to this, but
yeah, you say it and I'll expand if I need to.
Okay. Is you are a really stable, steady person. And I live, okay. And I would say the healthiest version of you is very realistic and logical. If you're ever in a season of unhealth, that can become cynical. I would say I am the exact opposite. I am incredibly idealistic. I have a hard time bringing ideas into reality, which on the one hand, this makes us a really great team because I can have an idea and you can help make it a reality. This is one thing that makes us, I mean, the podcast is the perfect example. I could have seriously never done the podcast if it wasn't for you figuring out, like, how do you do the tech behind a podcast? You built this set. You did the branding. Like, actually everything to execute the podcast other than the talking and interviewing, you did. So that's an example of it working well. I think the other side of it is I can have a lot of ideas that I get really excited about. And I almost envision you like in a racquetball court. Oh, look at me making an analogy. You've really impacted me. You're in a racquetball court and you're just like hitting balls back. And you're just trying to like, what do you call it? Like reciprocate and bounce, like whatever ideas are coming, you're trying to figure out which ones we're actually going to do and which ones we're not and how to tell me we're not. And I feel like that's a big role.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that that's a hard thing in our relationship. I feel like we've gotten better at it over time because I can be so cynical, if that's the right word in this, where you come to the table with an idea and I can immediately shoot 6 holes in it. And I don't want to be a dream crusher. And so I feel like we've learned how to have those conversations and, you know, brainstorm back and forth and actually make ideas come to reality. But I have the opposite issue of I have not anything specifically, but I could have dreams and aspirations or ideas of things to do. But because I can see all of the challenges along the way, I never get started. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it takes both of us to get anything done.
For sure. This wasn't a question on the list I sent you, so you ready?
I wasn't ready for the last one.
Like, what does our relationship together look like with the Lord, and what does it look like individually? Like, I could picture some people thinking, like, we sit and do Bible study every day together, which we obviously do.
We obviously do, don't.
No, but I also want to, like, you know, invite people into a little bit of, like, what our life looks like as far as our worship and relationship with the Lord.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you as a person have helped me deepen my relationship with the Lord and given me confidence in my relationship with the Lord in the last 6 years more than anything else in my time of being a Christian combined. And I just feel like having that person that knows your thoughts, that knows how you feel about things, that you can have a conversation with that may be a controversial topic or whatever else, or share struggles or challenges with in the faith or things surrounding that won't judge you, but help walk you through it or give you counter thoughts or all of the above is just so helpful. And I feel like not that you can't do that as a single person or pre-marriage, but just having that built into our relationship and marriage is so huge.
Yeah. I feel like, again, this kind of goes back to I am always thinking so idealistic, or I'll kind of get like lost in the flurry of feelings and emotions. And I feel like one thing that you're really good at doing is, I always say, like, bringing me back down to earth. And like, I have a couple of friends in my life who do this too, but always reminding me of like who God is. And you'll just say like such simple things like, but God wouldn't do that. And I'm like, okay, you're right. Okay, so why am I putting so much stock in this thing? But also, I just want everyone to know we're not like sitting around the table doing Bible study all the time. We try and pray together. We missed a whole week of nights, we realized last night. We try to pray together at night. And but we have, you know, our individual walks with the Lord, and then we just try and, like, the way that we love each other and the way that we love our kids, we try and have that reflect the Lord as much as possible. But yeah, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I also feel like is intentional time together studying the word or having those conversations important? 100%. And I feel like an area that we could do better. But I feel like it's easy to try and schedule that and have a 30-minute intentional conversation or a book study together, which all this gets a lot harder with kids. But doing that and then checking the box, and then your spiritual life not being in your marriage on a daily basis. I would rather, if I had to pick between the two, I'd rather not have the intentional sit down 30-minute Bible study together in exchange for what I feel like we do, where our relationship with the Lord and how we parent our kids as a result and all that stuff is just part of our marriage daily.
It goes back to, I can't remember if I was talking about this on Neighbors or on our Patreon, but I was saying, I think it was on Patreon, how I just really want to live a more integrated life. I feel like I lived a lot of years compartmentalizing my faith and my job and my friends and this and this. And I want to live a more integrated life where, like, everything is woven in everything and Jesus at the center of that. And I just think about, we went on a date last Friday night, and like, did we talk about our faith the entire 3 hours that we were together? No, but it was woven into our conversations. But I left that date feeling like we belly laughed so hard at certain things, and like we just had so much fun. And I left that date feeling so recharged and close to you and closer to God because of it. And it wasn't like what you're saying, like we didn't go to dinner and open the Bible and study the word together, although there is a time and place for that. And yeah, we could get a lot better at that. We do it individually. I wouldn't say we do it together often, but yeah, I think there's ways to weave it in to just like your holistic life. I think that's what we try and do.
Yeah. And to my point of having kids, we get up in the morning. Could we get up earlier and try and do that? Yeah. You get up and, you know, we do our individual quiet times. But oftentimes, just because of the nature of what I do, which isn't everyone's reality, I listen to a lot of content during the day. Some is Christian-based, some is not. But then I feel like you come home from work because you work at a church, and we can have conversations about things that you've learned or experiences you had. And I can come home from things I've listened to throughout the day. And like, those are the basis of our conversations. Yeah. Because in this season with toddlers, you and I sitting down and studying something is probably possible, but isn't our current reality.
Yeah. But also, we don't always get it right. And we're not perfect, obviously. I feel like that doesn't have to be said, but we're just honestly trying to do the best we can with what we got. The other night, we went to the beach for 15 minutes trying to have a fun family night, and it was seriously so terrible, to the point our neighbor asked me the next day that she told me I didn't look like I was having fun biking back from the beach. I was like, I wasn't having fun.
The bike ride home was terrible. I had a slightly different view of the night. I felt like after our 3.5-year-old, she put on oversized shoes, and right when we got to the beach where we parked the bikes on the concrete, took 2 steps and skinned both of her knees.
Face planted.
And yeah, that understandably so spiraled the rest of the night. But I felt like the beach was a success. The bike ride home was tough because they were upset. and you still had the bike trailer on the back of
Yeah,
your bike.
Wes has conveniently not moved the bike trailer off of my bike. So when we bike to the beach, I have to pull the girls, and it's so heavy and the wind was so strong. And I just looked at Wes halfway through the bike ride home. I was like, I'm not having fun anymore. And then Wes is trying. He's like,
point where our neighbor
Mommy's not
noticed.
having fun. He's like trying to like lift the mood.
Yeah, trying to get our girls, distract them enough to not cry the entire time, just half the time.
Okay. So we just did a new project together. Speaking of like when I bring you an idea and then you help make it a reality. We recently just finished a new project, and it's actually right here. It's called Daughter. And you might be like, wait, I thought you already did that. We did. We did a daughter study in the fall. It was a really short, like couple day devotional. And then this is the expanded version, which is a 21-day Bible study on your way to living a gospel confident life. And it's so beautiful. Look at the front cover. Now, I will say this one is smaller than the final. This is the proof, and we ended up getting a little bit of a bigger size. But I thought it was really important for Wes to be here for us to talk about this together because it really was a joint project. And you're such a voice of encouragement in my life. And I don't know that I would have really been able to do this without you. And Wes designed the whole thing. So I wrote all the content and then he laid it out and designed it. It really helps because he worked as an art director for a magazine for 7 years, not knowing that God would use that now this many years later to lay out, a book by us.
Which is so crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And so how was it doing this project with me?
Honestly, it was great. I mean, you were organized, you were detailed, you got all the stuff to me. This is all building up to the one thing that was hard. Because if I'm being honest, you're the easiest person to speak highly of. My experience of working on the magazine made it easier. The way you presented the stuff was great. We got the photos. The only thing that's challenging, and I know this to be true or not to be true in your professional actual
I have a
paid
lot of people
job.
listening that I work with. So
You are not a procrastinator, but in everything outside of, I think, your paid job, deadlines really motivate you, and getting as close to them as we possibly can is motivating.
You guys, seriously, the night before they have to be ordered.
Yeah, so we're at your parents' house.
At one point, wait, sorry, go ahead.
Basically on vacation, and I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, if we're gonna get these back in time for the event that you want to have them for, I have to get out of bed and we have to do this.
Yeah, it was bad.
It wasn't great, and we even tried so hard this time to do it earlier.
We really did.
But
okay. And then I said, oh, you and I were just so bad at procrastination. And you said, you were like, wait, I'm bad at procrastination? I was like, oh, I guess it's just me. But we did it. And our fatal flaw, I guess it's mine.
No,
I know that it's mine.
I'm similar in that.
Was the procrastination of it. But we got it done.
Yeah.
And hopefully it'll be here. But I'm really excited about this. And I mean, basically, I just put kind of like the journey I walked through of, growing up, everybody would always say, like, how are you so confident? And I never really had a great answer. Part of my answer was like, I have a great dad. And I feel like when you have a good dad who speaks life over you, you are just able to be really confident. And so that's part of it. But the other part was like, I don't actually know why I'm confident, but everyone thinks I'm confident. I think it's because I'm like loud and I have leadership traits, so like they just automatically kind of like are assuming I'm confident, but I feel like inside I was really not that confident, or it was all based in myself, and I would just continue to let myself down, but I didn't want anybody else to see me being let down, so then I kind of felt like a fraud, and it was just a really complicated web that was being spun, kind of like a ball of rubber bands that just like kept building on one another. And then when I feel like my faith was really forged, like when I was living in New York and I had nothing there, I felt so alone and I just really wanted God to meet me there, and he met me there. And that started the process of shedding these, I would call them labels, like shedding these labels that I had believed about myself, things like fraud or unworthy or disqualified or too much, too loud, those kinds of things. And I started shedding those, and then I started experiencing real freedom. And it was when I started experiencing that freedom that I started experiencing actual confidence, not like in who I was, but in who God was, therefore who I was. And that God didn't make a mistake when he created me. And do I have shadows? Yeah, because everyone does. But I just started actually believing the thing that had been said about me for so long, which was, why are you so confident? And then I actually felt confident. And it was, I mean, it's just like so fun to think about where I've come in the past 12 years from that girl who had just so many things hidden inside. And then I just brought them all into the light and started walking in freedom. And I've never really looked back. And I'm so different now because of it. And so I really just wanted to take the scripture that changed my life and put it on paper so that other women, maybe it will change their life too. Like, there's nothing new I'm writing in here, honestly, other than my experience next to God's word, which is ultimately the teacher in everything. And so we walk through together Genesis 3, where shame first enters the scene in the garden. And then we walk through John 4, the woman at the well. I mean, this story changed my life when Jesus talks to the Samaritan woman, which would have been so scandalous in that day and age, and he frees her from all of her sin and shame. And then we land in Luke 8, and this is the woman with the issue of bleeding. And she has struggled with labels her whole life, or at least much of her life, we believe. And she's lived in hiding. And her last ditch effort is to try and meet this man named Jesus. And she can't even face him. She has so much shame. So she just touches his cloak and she's healed. And then Jesus turns around and he actually calls her daughter. And that's the first time he calls anyone daughter in the New Testament. And like, she goes to him for physical healing and he ends up healing her soul. And so we just walk through those three scriptures, and then what does that mean for us? So we learn, like, what does that tell us about God? Because that's first and foremost important. And then what does that tell us about us? Well, it tells us that we don't have to live with the labels of the world. So then there's an activity where we actually walk through naming labels and shedding them. And so I hope, I don't know, maybe one woman, it does something for them, you know?
Yeah, I have no doubt that it will.
That's what I hope. I wanted to read a little part from it. So I say this in the intro. May I remind you that no mountain is too big for God. That's not just a coffee mug saying, it's all over scripture. And then I list some scripture that you can look up that talks about God moving mountains. The journey up this mountain is going to be hard. It will have setbacks, dry stretches with no water, and moments of gasping for breath because it feels like too much. And in that pressing, Jesus will meet you there. God's desire for you is not to live in the shadow of shame anymore. It's not for you to feel like you're carrying a backpack of boulders around everywhere you go. It's not for you to feel like you have to double check every conversation, decision, or impression to make sure you're likable. It's not to have to distract yourself in a quiet, slow time in fear you'll lose it. And if you lose it, you'll cry for a full year. No, that's not God's idea for us at all. God's idea for us is to live from a place of security and confidence, knowing who we are because of what he has done. So that's my hope.
Honey, I'm so proud of you.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so men, if you're listening, you can get this as a gift for the ladies in your life. Actually, it'd be kind of like a weird gift, like, hey, you might be struggling with some labels. Wait, I want to read one more thing. This is from day 18, where we start to name labels. And it says, the enemy wants you to live in untrue things about yourself to get your eyes off of God and keep you from walking in all that he has called you to do. But when we can name labels and lies, we can start the process of shedding them, putting on God's truth, and start truly living with our gaze set on Christ. So we're going to name some labels we're living in. I'll go first. These labels are both past and present tense for me. I've been freed and healed of them, but that doesn't mean they don't creep their way back between my ears. The enemy loves to try and convince me I am still tied to them. I lived in the label of people pleasing. I didn't have the language for it at the time, but every decision I made was rooted in what people would think of me. It was like spinning a bunch of plates and realizing I was out of arms. I was exhausted and overloaded. Next, I lived in the label of failure. I had like 50 jobs. Not really, but see, also dramatic. In 3 years after college, I moved to New York and, quote, didn't make it there. I was single and felt so lost and alone. And lastly, I lived in the label of fraud. This is the one I still battle the most. The psychology world would call this imposter syndrome. I believe that if people really knew me, they wouldn't want to. That caused me to build a perfect house of cards all around me to maintain an image I wanted people to believe. Like I would take a personality test, and in my subconscious, I was answering the questions based on an image versus who I really was. What are the labels you are living in? And then I have them close their eyes and ask the Holy Spirit to give language to those labels and write them down. So I share a little bit of my story and try and get a little vulnerable, which is a little bit hard for me.
Yeah, but I get a front row seat to you and how you live your life. And neither of us, as we've said multiple times, are perfect. But I've seen you grow so much, and I see how incredible you are as a mom and a wife and all the things that nothing makes me happier than to be able to help you put together something like this as a resource for people, not to be more like you, but more like you in your effort to be more like Christ.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I really battle, like I said, with imposter syndrome, and just I feel like I love attention. I love, I love to be a storyteller in a circle of friends because it just brings me so much life. And so then the other side of that is I get nervous that I'm going to make things about me. And I was really hesitant at first to even write this because I'm like, first of all, what the heck do I have to say that's of any value? And secondly, like, I don't want to just make another thing about me. And I feel like the journey the Lord's really brought me on is just how small I think. Like, do I really think that God's going to be limited by that fear of mine? And the answer is no, he's not. And he uses our dirty rags all the time to make much of him. And so all I pray is that this is a small fish and one loaf, and I'm putting it in the hands of the Creator who can do immeasurably more than I think and can ask. And it's not about me, but I just hope that he multiplies it. And I just want more women specifically. I think women really struggle with it. Like, I just want more women to be walking in freedom, because when you walk in freedom, nothing in the world can get you. Like the things that just bump up against us every single day, they'll stop leaving marks because you don't have any handles that they can grab onto anymore. And that's such a freeing place to be in. And it doesn't mean life isn't hard. That's not what it is. Life is incredibly hard, and tragedy hits and suffering hits. But when you understand who you are and the truth of who God is, then the way you walk through those seasons, just that ends up changing, and it doesn't fully break you. It just brings you in a closer relationship with the Lord.
Love it.
Do you have anything you want to add?
Not to that. I mean, you said it perfectly. But I mean, I've seen how that's already happened in version 1 of this. And I've seen how that's already happened and encouraged men and women in this podcast. And so I love my role of supporting you doing that, getting that out there and sharing all that you've learned.
Well, thanks. And yeah, we'll launch it on our website, and we'll link it in all the places that we haven't done yet because we procrastinate. But we will make sure that, if you want to get a copy, we'll make that available wherever we can. Yeah. Wes, it's been so fun having you on Neighbors. Will you come back?
I don't know. We'll see.
Like, he's going to go take like a 5-hour nap.
Yeah, I got to watch this one back. And
it wasn't bad.
You tell me.
No, I think you were great.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it was really fun. And I think the people are going to want you back.
Well, we will see about that. Oh, we're done.
Thanks for listening. We'd love for you to join us in The Neighborhood, our Patreon community. It's a space for the good, the hard, and the hilarious. A place where real life happens. It's $5 a month or any additional amount you choose. You'll get a podcast episode once a week from Caitlin and I, plus additional videos, early access to events and merch, and more fun things we'll do along the way. So come join us by going to patreon.com/neighborspodcast and sign up. We'll see you in the neighborhood. And if you enjoy Neighbors, we'd love for you to leave us a 5-star review anywhere you listen to the podcast, or subscribe and give this video a thumbs up on YouTube. Sharing is the best way to help our conversations make it into more corners of life. To grab your favorite Neighbors merch or resources, you can head to our website, theneighborspodcast.com. Neighbors is produced by Logger Creative, audio by Taylor Minning, and music by Austin and Lindsay Adamak. See you next time.
Brighter days, new mercies every morning. You never shy away. life.